They never noticed the way I stared at them. Not really, not fully. Not with the hunger behind my eyes that had been growing since the day we moved in together. It started small, just tiny glances, little pauses in the hallway, watching her brush her teeth, watching her pour her cereal. I memorized everything the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. The way she laughed, like she was trying not to be loud. The way her eyes glazed over when she thought no one was watching. 2 years of this obsession, 2 years of learning how she moved, how she thought, how she felt. But she never saw me. Not really. Not in the way I wanted, and that made something inside me crawl and burn and twist. I knew I shouldn't do. I knew it was wrong. But one night, I drilled a hole into the bathroom wall. So small, so perfect. And inside I placed a camera disguised like a screw, one of many that began to fill. Our apartment, the vents, the bookshelves, the teddy bear on the couch. She hugged when she cried. Every room became mine. Every moment recorded, watched, studied, memorized, and replayed. Late into the night, my headphones buried into my skull as her breath became my lullaby. Then came the weekends, the precious empty weekends, when she left to visit her boyfriend, and I stayed behind alone with the ghost of her scent, with the heat of her footsteps still. Echoing through the floorboards, I would crawl into her bed and press my face into her pillow, inhaling her as if she were the only oxygen I had left. I would open her drawers, carefully, precisely unfolding her clothes like sacred pages from a holy book. I found the nightgown she wore. The first night she cried in front of me, and I wore it for hours, staring into her mirror, whispering her name until my voice broke and my throat bled and the lights flickered for no reason. I told myself I loved her, and maybe in some way I did. Maybe in the same way parasites love their hosts, in the same way fire loves the wood it eats. She moved out in the spring. Right after graduation, she hugged me and told me I was the sweetest, most reliable roommate she ever had, and I smiled and nodded and said nothing. Because there was too much to say, because words would rot in the air between us. And now she lives 5 miles away. I know because I followed her car. I watched her walk her dog. I watched her cook dinner through her kitchen window. And sometimes at night, I stand in her backyard beneath the trees, watching her silhouette behind the curtains, watching the life that should have been ours. My brother went missing 10 years ago. We were just kids back then, just two dumb boys playing near the old trails behind our grandfather's cabin where the trees hang low like claws. And the sun dies before it even hits the forest floor. Everyone warned us not to go deep. They said there were places that didn't want to be found, and that the forest had a memory, longer than we could understand, but we were brave and bored and curious, and so we wandered off the path and found a hole in the ground, a perfect circle, wide and yawning like the mouth of some sleeping god. And my brother dared me to go in first, but I was too scared. So he laughed and slid down into the dark. I waited and waited, but he never came back. I called his name over and over, and then finally I heard him scream. It was short, sharp, like something had caught him mid-breath then. Nothing silence so thick, it made my ears ring. I tried to climb down after him, but the shaft was too narrow, too slick. And then when I ran to get help, dragging our grandfather and 3 other men back to that place, the hole was gone like the earth swallowed it, like the ground had healed itself, like the forest changed its face. They searched for days. Dogs, helicopters, posters, prayers, but nothing came back. And eventually they said he drowned, or ran away, or maybe got lost and eaten by animals. But I knew better. I know better, because every year on the same day the wind in the trees calls my name in his voice, not screaming, not begging, but soft like a lullaby, soft like a secret, and once last year I followed that voice and found a figure standing beneath the oldest tree where the roots grow like ribs around the soil. It looked like him, but taller, thinner. His eyes were black. His mouth was wrong, and when I tried to move, I couldn't, and when I blinked, he was gone. And now I sleep with the lights on, but it doesn't matter because every time I dream I see the forest and the hole and something climbing back out. We bought the farmhouse because it was cheap and lonely. My wife said it was romantic, like something out of a novel. The way the wind whistled through the broken windows, the way the floorboards creaked like old bones. And I wanted to believe her because she looked so happy, and I wanted her to be happy. But the moment we stepped inside, I felt something heavy. Something watching. Something that lived in the corners where the light never touched. We cleaned and painted and smiled through the rot and mold and laughter until we found the basement door. It was hidden behind a bookshelf sealed with chains and rust, and locked with a padlock. So old, the numbers had worn off. And we should have left it. But curiosity is a wicked thing, and she found the key in the garden buried 3 feet deep, as if something once tried to hide it. And I don't know how she knew to dig there. I don't know how she smiled so calmly. When the door finally creaked open, and the cold rose up from the depths like a breath, like a whisper. The basement was stone old, stone wet, stone with carvings that twisted if you stared too long, and something in the back that moved without moving like a shadow made of smoke and teeth. And she stood there, smiling like she had found something lost, like she remembered something she had never learned. And that night, she changed. She stopped blinking, stopped eating, stopped sleeping. She started whispering to the corners, talking to someone, something I could not see. She said the house was old and lonely. It needed us, she said. We were chosen, and every night she stood at the basement door waiting like a dog at a window, and one night she walked down and didn't come back for hours, and when she did, her skin was cold and she smelled like wet earth, and she kissed my forehead and said, "It's almost time." And now I sleep on the couch with a knife under my pillow, and I haven't gone down to the basement, but I hear things crawling up the stairs, and every night she sings to them in that language. I don't know, and the lights flicker, and the walls pulse like they are breathing. My father was the kindest man I ever knew. He used to make pancakes in the shape of animals. He used to read to me in funny voices. He used to hum while he worked and smile for no reason. And then my mother died, and something broke inside him, something deep and silent. He stopped talking to me, stopped looking at me, stopped existing, except at night when he would go down into the basement and sit in the dark for hours and hours. I followed him once thinking he needed help, thinking he would be sad or crying, but he wasn't. He was whispering into the shadows like they were whispering back, and the sound that came from that place was not human. It was not a voice. It was not a word. It was like metal scraping inside my skull, and something shifted in the dark, and I ran back upstairs and pretended I didn't see anything. He died 6 months later, peacefully in his sleep. They said no signs of pain, they said, and I wanted to believe that, but when we cleaned out the house I found his journal hidden behind the boiler, covered in soot and dust, and filled with drawings, pages and pages of things that shouldn't exist. Things with too many limbs and no faces, towns made of bone and fire, things with mouths in their stomachs and eyes on their hands. And at the very end, a single sentence in his handwriting that said, "I said yes, and now it's your turn." And I burned in that journal and moved away. And still, sometimes, I hear him at night whispering from the corners of my room. There is a girl who lives above me. Or maybe she doesn't. Her name is on the mailbox, but no one has ever seen her. She never gets packages, never leaves the building, never checks the mail. And every night at exactly 2:03, I hear her footsteps slow, dragging uneven, like one leg is broken or like she's carrying something heavy. And once I knocked on her door, just to be polite, just to say hello. And no one answered, but something pressed against the other side. Something slow. Something breathing. I started hearing tapping on my walls at night. Slow, soft, rhythmic like a heartbeat. And one morning, I found a drawing on my doorstep. A crude sketch of me sleeping, and I thought it was a prank until the next night, when it happened again and again. And every morning a new drawing appeared, each one closer, each one darker, until one day the drawing was me lying in bed with someone standing over me, And I moved out that day, packed my things and ran, and now I live 4 states away, and last night there was a drawing taped to my window.